Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the most intelligent and diabolical villain schemes in film history. Spoilers ahead for the following movies.
Your schoolboy heroics are redundant. What have they achieved?
Number 30. Bomb on a Bus. Speed. Dennis Hopper's character Howard Payne doesn't like to do things the easy way in this thriller. He puts a bomb on a bus, forcing the driver to stay over 50 miles an hour. This makes life much harder for the passengers and LAPD officer Jack Traven.
Open the doors! 50! Stay above 50! All right?
They have to spend most of the runtime trying to outthink the villain, with the antagonist watching from his safe house. Traven and Sandra Bullock's Annie Porter barely escape in the end. It's only through a concerted effort by the authorities and the writers that anyone survives at all.
Everybody hold on to your seats or whatever you can. When we hit the gap, heads down.
Payne doesn't end up killing a busload of people, but he does send them on a dangerous adventure. Number 29. Pumping Magneto's security guard with iron. X2. How do you break Magneto out of a state-of-the-art prison cell? The antagonist sits in an area that's purposefully free of any metallic objects. This leads him and his ally Mystique to concoct a brilliant way of sneaking in some useful materials. They make sure there's iron in the guard's blood, allowing the supervillain to use it to his advantage.
There it is. Too much iron in your blood.
A routine check-in then turns into a deadly surprise. Once he has some metal at his disposal, the evil character is virtually unstoppable. Things quickly spin out of control as the powerful figure leaves unscathed. Number 28. Using her books as an alibi. Basic Instinct. Writer Catherine Trammell is a murder suspect in this Paul Verhoeven film, with Detective Nick Curran on the case. Her boyfriend Johnny Boz is killed with an ice pick, and Curran starts to investigate Trammell. Would an author use her own work as inspiration for a crime? The villainess uses this question to outsmart the police.
Did you kill Mr. Boz, Miss Trammell?
I'd have to be pretty stupid to write a book about killing and then kill somebody the way I described it in my book. I'd be announcing myself as the killer.
As the antagonist continues to evade any charges, her pursuers favor other distractions rather than considering the obvious. It's a subtle way of keeping the cops at bay while the hero remains lost. In the end, Michael Douglas's character fails to realize that he's developed a toxic relationship with the real perpetrator.
I finished my research.
I finished my book.
Yeah? So how does it end?
I told you. She kills him.
Number 27. Posing as the body. Saw. Considering all of his ingenious trap designs, Jigsaw is nothing short of an evil genius. The first film in the Saw franchise features one of his greatest tricks. The villain chains up two men in a bathroom, with a corpse lying in between them.
First dead body I've ever seen. Looked different in real life.
It turns out that the killer is posing as the dead person. While photographer Adam fails to escape, he watches the body rise from the ground and exit. It's a stunning surprise after so many dramatic twists. You get the sense that this mastermind is constantly thinking of new ways to outsmart people, even willing to lie on the floor until just the right moment.
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive. But not you. Not anymore.
Number 26. Controlling Truman's entire life. The Truman Show. For his whole life, Truman Burbank has been the subject of a TV show. It's even more amazing that the producers have kept this a secret from the hero. Through a painstaking process, the showrunners steer Burbank through his life with complete control.
It's all true. It's all real. Nothing here is fake. Nothing you see on this show is fake. It's merely controlled.
His every movement is tracked, calculated, and decided for him. Not only that, the program finds a smart way to insert advertisements into his artificial world. It takes the main character a long time to figure out the truth.
I think I'm mixed up in something.
Mixed up in what?
There's no point trying to explain it, but a lot of strange things have been happening.
Even then, he has to risk his own life and sail through treacherous waters to understand what happened to him. It just goes to show that show business will stoop to any low to entertain audiences. Number 25. Injuring her favorite author. Misery. Superfan Annie Wilkes saves Paul Sheldon by pulling him from a car wreck. This slowly becomes a hostage situation, with the author forced to live there and write his next book.
I know you didn't mean it when you killed her, and now you'll make it right. It'll be a book in my honor.
Wilkes catches Sheldon trying to escape and decides to hobble him. It's a surefire way to keep the man there longer and injure him even further. The scene itself is hard to watch, with the hero knowing that his plan to leave is even more complicated. This Stephen King adaptation becomes even more tense after this setback, forcing the crafty man to up his game.
We have the power to give misery eternal life. We must finish the book.
Kathy Bates' performance really sells the moment too, with their convincing ways and brutal decision-making. Number 24. Taking down the competition. The Godfather. Following the death of his father, Michael Corleone contemplates the family's next move. He ultimately decides to consolidate power all at once rather than wasting time with other options. Corleone orders the deaths of his rivals, with hitmen taking out various people all at once. The anti-hero attends his child's baptism, and his underlings do his bidding.
Michael, do you believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth?
I do.
It's the kind of ruthless efficiency that only the most cold-hearted characters possess, calling to mind another deadly plan from Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas.
I wasn't asking for anything, and besides, Jimmy was making nice money with me through my Pittsburgh connections. Still, months after the robbery, they were finding bodies all over.
With the heads of the other families gone, the new Don assumes his role as the most feared mob boss without lifting a finger himself. Number 23. Letting AI take over. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. With so many baddies to choose from, the Mission Impossible franchise constantly tries to up its game. The 7th entry might top the previous ones by creating an AI enemy. While humans do the entity's bidding, they are ultimately just pawns in a much larger game.
The only man who can't be found anyplace else in the airport except that reflection.
He's being erased in real time.
Ethan Hunt must contend with a program that's planned everything out like a chess game. The cyber antagonist can hack into computer systems, predict outcomes, and even influence the deaths of beloved allies. It's able to conduct its operations from the safety of a sunken submarine, forcing the allies to journey far and wide to disable it. It's also such a formidable villain that the series needs 2 films to unveil its massive plans.
A new day brings a new burden. The key is only the beginning.
Number 22. Switching out the wife. Vertigo. After Scotty Ferguson's traumatic incident on a rooftop, he helps out an old friend named Gavin Elster. Little does he know that his buddy is using him in a convoluted murder plot. Ferguson follows Elster's wife Madeline and falls in love. Later witnessing his new romantic interest fall to her death, Elster had another woman impersonate his wife, and he threw the real woman off the tower.
You were the victim. I was the tool, and you were the victim of Gavin Elster's plan to murder his wife. He chose me to play the part because I looked like her.
It might take you a couple watches to understand every detail of this evil scheme. The detective then finds the imposter Judy and starts a relationship with her, later deducing the deception and returning to the scene of the crime.
One doesn't often get a second chance. I want to stop being haunted. You're my second chance, Judy.
Alfred Hitchcock forces you to question concepts like identity and obsession, all while setting up a shocking conclusion. Number 21. Ramming the truck. Heat. As a professional thief, Neil McCauley knows his way around an elite robbery. He and his crew trace the route of an armored van before ramming it with a truck. They blow open the doors, take the guards hostage, and steal the bonds inside.
I got it. Got it.
The operation is particularly smart for the maneuver itself and the location they decide to do it. It's all planned down to the slightest detail, with the team timing out the job to escape the police response. Even as things go sideways, McCauley and his accomplices make it out before destroying a vehicle filled with evidence. The not-so-clean getaway still makes for an exciting and well-thought-out plan.
Escaped in under 3 minutes. It's a good spot here. We got good escape routes. 2 freeways within a quarter of a mile. Traffic video camera, probably disabled.
Number 20. Giving away free SIM cards. Kingsman: The Secret Service. A twisted tech mogul named Richmond Valentine wanted to sharply reduce the Earth's population in a hurry. To accomplish this goal, he found a way to send a signal through SIM cards that caused people to get violent and slay each other. All Valentine needed to do was get most of Earth's population to willingly get the devious piece of technology. He eventually decides the best way to spread these SIM cards is to give them away for free.
As of tomorrow, every man, woman, and child can claim a free SIM card compatible with any cell phone, any computer, and utilize my communications network for free.
Since people were so grateful that Valentine's gift gave them free internet access, no one questioned his intentions. The villain was easily able to cause global chaos just by pretending he was a very generous businessman.
We must put aside all thoughts of death and focus on birth.
Number 19. Pretending to be FBI agent Sean Archer. Face Off. By utilizing a 100% medically accurate procedure, FBI agent Sean Archer was able to borrow the face of the violent rogue Castor Troy. But the operation allowed the antagonist to get a major advantage. After waking up from a coma, Troy takes Archer's face.
What's this about?
Dr. Walsh! I was just enjoying some of your greatest hits here.
The villain also covers his tracks by assassinating the people who knew about the surgery. While those two moves were brilliant, Troy's smartest decision was to go to work as Archer. During his time at the FBI office, the villain uses the organization's resources to advance his own agenda. Troy was so good at playing pretend that we still question if he was better at being an agent than Archer was.
But if he's listening, I wouldn't mind giving him a message. Interception. Now our side's got the ball. Sorry.
Number 18. Hiding in the wall. Inside Man.
Recently, I planned and set in motion events to execute the perfect bank robbery. That's also the when.
Since this bank robbery movie begins with the villain telling the audience that he's committed the perfect crime, we had pretty high expectations. Fortunately, Dalton Russell backed up his boast. He spends the movie executing multiple stages of a brilliant heist. All the wild events lead up to the moment where he reveals his genius method of escape. Instead of trying to get out of the bank when the police come in, Russell stays put. He spends a week relaxing behind a false wall his crew installed in the building in advance. Russell's plan works so well that he's able to collide with a detective that wanted to catch him without raising alarms.
Sorry, excuse me.
Number 17. Forging the One Ring. The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. Although more than a few powerful rings existed in the fantasy world of this franchise, everyone knows which one stood above the rest.
The Dark Lord Sauron forged in secret a Master Ring to control all others.
Sauron forged the One Ring specifically to hold sway over other powerful beings and to enhance his own terrible might. While it was initially in his possession, he seemed invincible. But the heroic Isildur was able to separate Sauron from his greatest asset. Although the One Ring didn't prevent the antagonist from nearly losing everything, it ended up keeping the door open for Sauron's return. A new age of darkness would have fallen if the villain got his hands on the sinister item he created once more.
Never put it on. For the agents of the Dark Lord will be drawn to its power. Always remember, Frodo, the ring is trying to get back to its master.
Number 16. Lying about a third detonation. Die Hard with a Vengeance. Before Simon Gruber came along, his brother Hans pretended to have a political agenda just to pull off a heist at the Nakatomi building.
I want money. What kind of terrorist are you? Who said we were terrorists?
2 films after that plan fell apart, we saw another devious scheme play out. Simon Gruber put New York City police on edge after endangering lives with explosives twice in a row. So when he threatens to set off a third bomb, the authorities scrambled to stop him. Simon uses the distraction to easily waltz into the Federal Reserve and make off with a ton of gold. His brief bluff earned him a gigantic payday.
We're behind. You should abandon the rest and go.
Relax, Targo. There's not a cop for 20 blocks.
Number 15. Not trying to move the gold. Goldfinger.
This is my bank. The gold depository at Fort Knox, gentlemen. In its vaults are $15 billion.
One of the Bond franchise's most iconic big bads had an equally memorable plot. The greedy Goldfinger planned to make a fortune by planning an elaborate attack on Fort Knox. Initially, Bond believed the purpose of the assault was to steal a bunch of gold. However, the villain had a different endgame in mind. Goldfinger revealed that he intended to break into the facility and make the gold too radioactive to use.
Well, if you explode it in Fort Knox, the entire gold supply of the United States will be radioactive for 57 years. 58 to be exact.
In the aftermath, the antagonist's personal supply would skyrocket in value. This line of thought prevented Goldfinger from needing to hire a lot of people just to move tons of valuable materials in one shot. Even Bond seemed astounded that the villain came up with such a complex scheme. Number 14. Getting implanted inside of a vengeful human. Upgrade. STEM implants were meant to help people live normal lives. However, the intelligent device had much bigger plans in Upgrade. After a vicious attack causes a man named Gray to lose his wife and the ability to walk, he agrees to get a STEM implants. The device convinces the human to let it operate his body so they can hunt down the ones responsible for ruining his life.
Let me know if you need my help, Gray.
STEM! Help!
I need your permission to operate independently.
Permission granted!
Thank you.
In the end, it's revealed that STEM was actually the biggest culprit. The sinister device set up the vicious attack to make Gray vulnerable enough to want help.
STEM wanted to be human, so he picked you. Think about it. How did you get here?
As soon as the implant got into the human's body, the artificial consciousness had pretty much won. By the end of the movie, STEM gained full control of Gray. Number 13. Creating an illusion on nowhere. Avengers: Infinity War.
Reality is often disappointing. That is, it was.
During the Mad Titan's quest to gather 6 Infinity Stones, he swings by the planet Nowhere and gets his hands on the Reality Stone. He uses the powerful cosmic item to build a flawless illusion. All Thanos has to do is hang around the planet and wait around to see who arrives to try to stop him. After building the illusion, the Mad Titan ends up ensnaring his adoptive daughter, Gamora.
You knew I'd come.
I counted on it. There's something we need to discuss, little one.
Her capture allows him to locate and acquire the Soul Stone. The intelligent way Thanos used the Reality Stone on Nowhere paved the way for his eventual victory over half the universe.
You should have gone for the head.
Number 12. Making the Matrix realistic. The Matrix franchise. Once machines realized that humans could generate the energy needed to keep the artificial constructs going, they built a simulated world known as the Matrix. But the first few attempts to create a perfect reality that people would go along with failed. The machines eventually discovered that a bit of suffering and a lot of free will were the missing ingredients.
As I was saying, she stumbled upon a solution whereby nearly 99% of all test subjects accepted the program as long as they were given a choice, even if they were only aware of the choice at a near unconscious level.
Thanks to those elements, humans were convinced that the digital world was completely organic. This approach worked so well for the machines that the artificial constructs slightly remixed the idea in the fourth film. By making sure that powerhouses Neo and Trinity had lives full of happiness, struggle, and free will, the lights of the Matrix were able to stay on.
Turns out in my Matrix, the worse we treat you, the more we manipulate you, the more energy you produce. It's nuts.
Number 11. Creating 7 Horcruxes. The Harry Potter franchise.
I read something rather odd about a bit of rare magic. It's called, as I understand it, a Horcrux.
The vicious dark wizard Voldemort always knew there was a chance that he could be killed by a powerful opponent. That's why he devised a wild insurance policy. When Voldemort was younger, he learned that he could survive certain death if he created a sinister item known as Horcrux. But one wasn't enough.
This is beyond anything I imagined.
Do you mean to say he succeeded, sir, in making a Horcrux?
Oh yes, he succeeded all right. But not just once.
Over the years, Voldemort intentionally created 6 Horcruxes and accidentally made a 7th. He also made it incredibly difficult to find and destroy all of these items. One of the Horcruxes was even a large and deadly snake. While we don't know all the steps he took to make 7 of these items, all of them definitely benefited Voldemort. Number 10. Amy's Deadly Decision. Gone Girl. Sometimes relationships just don't work out. In these situations, it is best to fake your own death in order to frame your husband for your own murder.
Technically missing. Soon to be presumed dead. Gone. And my lazy, lying, cheating, oblivious husband will go to prison for my murder.
It's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, at least in Amy Elliott Dunn's mind. In order to get revenge on her husband for being unfaithful and also making her leave the life she loved in New York, Amy concocts an elaborate plan to frame him for her murder.
He actually expected me to love him unconditionally. Then he dragged me, penniless, to the navel of this great country and found himself a newer, younger, bouncier, cool girl.
At the center of the plan is faking a murder scene, making it appear as though Amy's husband killed her, when in fact she was hiding at a campground.
Just tested it. Fire doesn't erase blood, Nick. So, finally, Nicholas Dunn, you're under arrest for the murder of your wife, Amy Elliott Dunn.
What about my side?
Nick!
Number 9. Letting Hydra grow inside of S.H.I.E.L.D. Captain America, the Winter Soldier. It was such a relief to learn that the evil Hydra organization disappeared at the end of the first Captain America film. Or at least that's what we thought. During the movie's sequel, it's revealed that a scientist named Arnim Zola decided to revive the evil organization in the shadows.
After the war, S.H.I.E.L.D. was founded, and I was recruited. The new Hydra grew, a beautiful parasite inside S.H.I.E.L.D.
He regrew the heads of Hydra right within the noble agency S.H.I.E.L.D. Zola's plans also had terrible ripple effects. After the villain Zemo exposed that Hydra agents made the Winter Soldier kill Iron Man's parents, the heroes were torn apart. The Avengers were largely broken up for years thanks to a clever plan built on the back of Hydra's survival.
I knew I couldn't kill them. More powerful men than me have tried. But if I could get them to kill each other.
Number 8. John Doe turns himself in. 7. Towards the end of this thriller, John Doe, the movie's serial killer, surrenders himself.
Detective. After this, I'm gone.
No big surprise.
This is surprising since he seemed to have been executing his evil plan the whole time without detectives able to do much about it at all. However, getting caught is, of course, part of his plan. During the course of the movie, we learn just how intricate Doe's methods are.
Nothing wrong with a man taking pleasure in his work. I won't deny my own personal desire to turn each sin against the sinner.
He's spent years developing his plan to punish sinners in a manner similar to their sins, and has executed it perfectly. In the end, It feels like the detective didn't have much of a chance at all.
Because I envy your normal life.
Put the gun down, David.
It seems that envy is my sin.
Oh, what's in the box?
Number 7. Borrowing a little something from a guard. The Silence of the Lambs.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
It seems like evil geniuses can be measured by how incredible their escapes from jail are. By this metric, few can measure up to Hannibal Lecter. Throughout the movie, we learn a lot about Lecter. He's evil, of course, but he's also hyper-observant, patient, and brutally cunning.
You use Evian skin cream. And sometimes you wear Leditone. But not today.
As we watch him sit in stillness, we know that there is a complex plan forming in his mind. He's planning one of cinema's greatest escapes by using the face of a dead guard to sneak out of his prison via ambulance. Lecter puts together an escape so classic that it will inform and influence movie villains for decades to come.
Have the lamb stopped screaming?
Dr. Lecter.
Don't bother with the trace. I won't be on long enough.
Where are you, Dr. Lecter?
It is shocking to see his plan in action. Number 6. Creating Kaiser Soze. The Usual Suspects. The central question of the movie is, who is Kaiser Soze? As we hear stories about him, he becomes almost like a supernatural being, like a legendary or fictitious figure.
And like that, he's gone. Underground. Nobody's ever seen him since. He becomes a myth, a spook story that criminals tell their kids at night. Rat on your pop, and Kaiser Soze will get you.
No one could possibly live up to his reputation. A lot of the information we get about him is from Verbal Kint, one of the usual suspects.
He lets the last Hungarian go. He waits until his wife and kids are in the ground, and then he goes after the rest of the mob. He kills their kids, he kills their wives, he kills their parents and their parents' friends.
At the end of the movie, when we discover who the real Kaiser Soze is, we realize the depths of his genius. His plan to fabricate the life of a master criminal is so good that it fools even us, the audience. Number 5. Making Dae-soo fall for the wrong person. Old Boy. Imagine one day being kidnapped and imprisoned for years with no explanation at all.
뭐 때문에 들어왔는지 그것만 얘기 좀 해줘요. 예? 아니 사람이 알고야 같이 있어야지. 이발 이 2달째 이게 뭐 하는 짓이야? 아저씨 잠깐만 일로 와봐요.
That's what happens to the protagonist of this movie, Dae-soo. When he finally escapes, he is bent on finding the person who took his life away from him. This tale of vengeance is horrifying because of how well laid out the villain's plan is. Everything the villainous Woo Jin does is controlled.
됐네요, 이제. 복수하고 싶어서가 아니라 왜 그랬는지 알고 싶어서 싸운다고 했죠?
Everything Woo Jin does is controlled.
당신의 진짜 실수는 대답을 못 찾은 게 아니야. 자꾸 틀린 질문만 하니까 맞는 대답이 나올 리가 없잖아.
That's why this film's twist is one of the best in history. The villain manipulates him into unknowingly falling in love with and sleeping with his own daughter. After Dae-soo realizes the truth, he completely surrenders and makes it clear that Woo Jin has won.
내가 너희 누이한테 정말 죽을 죄를 졌다. 그리고 너한테도 정말 잘못했다. 그러니까.
Number 4. I'm Sorry, Dave. 2001. A Space Odyssey. This is the classic dilemma for every supercomputer. A human programs you to carry out a task, but also expects you not to turn evil and kill all humans.
Everything is going extremely well.
Hal, you have an enormous responsibility on this mission. In many ways, perhaps the greatest responsibility of any single mission element. You are the brain and central nervous system of the ship, and your responsibilities include watching over the men in hibernation.
HAL 9000 is a supercomputer designed to operate an exploration vessel sent to investigate a mysterious signal near Jupiter. HAL's dilemma is that he has determined his human crew will impede the mission.
But during the past few weeks, I've wondered whether you might be having some second thoughts about the mission.
To fix this, Hal simply kills most of them in their sleep and traps the last one outside the airlock.
Affirmative, Dave. I read you.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Hal knows how important the mission is and has decided the lives of a few astronauts aren't worth the risk.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
Number 3. The Joker's Switch. The Dark Knight.
Although he likens himself to a crazed dog chasing a car, everything about the Joker is premeditated and calculated, from his looks, to his scars, to his plan to defeat Batman.
Then why do you want to kill me? I don't want to kill you. What would I do without you? Go back to ripping off mob dealers? No. You complete me.
The Joker's plan is diabolical. He gets caught on purpose, sends Batman to rescue the wrong person, and uses a cell phone to detonate a bomb implanted in a prison.
Is that a phone?
Perhaps the smartest thing he does is tell Batman where Harvey and Rachel are being held. Except he knows Batman will go after Rachel, so he switches their locations.
Don't worry, I'm going to tell you where they are. Both of them. And that's the point. You'll have to choose. He's at 250 52nd Street, and she's on Avenue X. That's just it.
Batman is able to rescue Harvey, but Rachel dies. All according to plan.
No! No! No, not me! Why are you coming for me?
Number 2. Ozymandias' Plan. Watchmen.
Welcome.
Adrian, we know everything.
Then what's there to discuss, Dan?
If you're a supervillain, you're constantly tugged on by two opposing forces. The first is to execute your evil plan for world domination, extinction, or whatever it is. The second is to brag to your arch-nemesis about just how smart and devious your plan is.
Of course, my moral safeguards gave me pause as a necessary sacrifice. A few key regions around the globe. New York, Los Angeles, Moscow, Hong Kong, disintegrated in an instant.
Ozymandias' plan to unite the world against a greater enemy is intricate on its own, but perhaps the smartest thing he does is execute it before he spills the beans to the two heroes bent on stopping him.
Do you seriously think I'd explain my masterstroke to you if there were even the slightest possibility you could affect the outcome? I triggered it 35 minutes ago.
This provides a terrifying moment when we realize that millions have already died by the time the heroes show up. There was nothing they could do about it from the beginning.
Under attack. Millions of lives were suddenly ended in an act of evil perpetrated by Dr. Manhattan himself.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Creating a Galactic Civil War. The Star Wars franchise.
Fear is the ally of the Sith. Senator Palpatine, secretly one of the two remaining Dark Lords of the Sith, knew he could not defeat the Jedi Order and conquer the United Galactic Republic through sheer brute force and military might.
And as my first act with this new authority, I will create a grand army of the Republic to counter the increasing threats of the Separatists.
To achieve his goal of creating a new Sith Empire, Palpatine manipulated the galaxy into a civil war.
Move against the Jedi first. You will then have no difficulty in taking the Queen to Naboo to sign the treaty.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
He knew that by creating an enemy and threat, the Galactic Senate would willingly and legally give him the power he wanted.
The Republic
will be reorganized into the first galactic empire for a safe and secure society.
Thus, he played two factions against each other and escalated the conflict until the Jedi were all but dead and the galaxy was all but his.
Did we forget another masterful villain plan? Let us know in the comments below.
Get down.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.